KC Laboratory. Sponsored by Emprise Bank.
It's the KC Laboratory presented by Emprise Bank. Find a bank that delivers real solutions to help you reach your goals. Just like 2-3-jet chip wasp. That's championship type thinking. Emprise Bank is your partner in possible. Emprise Bank, member FDIC, a big supporter here at KC Sports Network. We're so appreciative of them and what they've done to get this thing off the ground here at KC Sports Network. And it's been a lot of fun partnering with them. And I'm having a lot of fun partnering with these two. My dear pals, first find them on Twitter at Chief in Carolina. Maddie Lane, I got to see you this weekend, and it was the biggest joy of the month of July.
Buddy, I was going to say, I had a lot of fun partnering with you on a ride to training camp, enjoying the rain out in St. Joe, sweating because it was very hot. I enjoyed our time at training camp together, but I must say, I am happy. It's been a full week since I have gotten to see or speak to the big institution himself, Craig Stout, the man, the myth, the legend that has kept KCSN going while everybody else was off going to camp. So Craig, I'm very happy I get to see you today, buddy. I missed you. I am sorry you were not able to join us, but I am happy for why. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing very well. I'm sorry I missed you guys too. It looked like a hell of a lot of fun. I am very jealous that you all got to get together, but we'll get together another time. It's not going to be that big of a deal. I take offense to you saying that I've done the things that I've done over the past week because we have all contributed. And just for that, Maddie, you know what? I'm not going to do anything for the next week. You guys are just going to do whatever it is that you're going to do. I'm just not going to show up. I'm not going to write any articles. Just it's not happening. You guys can just do that now because of you, Maddie.
Well, I think that's only fair. For all the weight you just carried over the past week, I think you deserve to have a week off. So, kick your feet up, relax, do absolutely nothing besides relax over the next week, bud. And we will see you a week from now.
Yeah, that sounds good. Let's talk some Chiefs football. You guys went to camp. We got takeaways.
I'm just terrified that KCSN just falls apart in the week that Craig's gone. Just hold on. He's coming back. I promise. We're going to start every show like that. We have I think the biggest thing we got to talk about just off the top of the bat here. That's not a phrase, but Tyreek Hill did not practice today due to knee tendonitis. And there's obviously, it's early. It sounds like it's a little bit precautionary, but I think that's at least notable. That's a very important detail here, especially considering there's been a lot of the top end players that the Chiefs have paid, the last couple years. Anthony Hitchens, Travis Kelce, now Tyreek Hill, they've all missed time. These are all, the Chiefs have a very top heavy roster, and some of the top has had some injuries. And now we're looking at a little bit of knee tendonitis, it sounds like, for Tyreek Hill. Maddie, where's your level of concern moving forward here?
I'm not concerned right now. I think knee tendonitis is a lot of times it can just be associated with not even necessarily overuse, but just a ramp up and things that are happening. So Tyreek Hill, a guy that is very active at all times. I mean, you jump on this dude's YouTube page in the offseason, he never stops. He's like the Energizer Bunny. He even talked about this year, how he felt like he did need to dial it back in the offseason a little bit so that he could be feeling like he was at 110% for the entire season. It's like, I'm not surprised at some point in time, especially this early on when camp's getting going, that there might be some overuse type injuries like tendonitis and the knee popping up. As long as it's treated, as long as he's doing a good job rehabbing his way through it, it should present no issue. I think he should be very clearly on track to be ready well before the regular season starts and able to play. There are some incidents, though. Looking at D Ford specifically, he's a guy who's a different animal altogether in terms of his health, but he's a guy who had tendonitis in his knee bother him an entire season that he was with the San Francisco 49ers. It caused him to miss games, miss time during games. So it is something that if it goes unchecked, if you do not get the proper rehab for it, it can really change how you're able to play, how well you can perform. I don't think Tyreek Hill, I don't foresee Tyreek Hill going down that route, but it is something that is a possibility if they don't do a good job staying on top of it. I like that they just immediately held him out. Like, he took himself out. They held him out today. Get that process rolling as early as possible.
Yeah, he was wearing a band around his knee when he came out. So it is obviously something that had cropped up prior to this practice. It wasn't an immediate thing where it's like, oh no, they knew it was coming. They sensed it was coming. He went out there. I think there's some videos out there, him running some of the individual drills, and he just doesn't look like the same guy. Obviously, taking it a little bit easy, not trying to stress it or anything like that. Eventually decided that it's time to just walk up the hill, take it easy, and chill. Perfectly fine with that. Guy like Tyreek Hill doesn't need a single preseason rep as far as I'm concerned. I mean, the dynamic between him and Patrick Mahomes is very well developed. It's very good. We know what Tyreek Hill brings to this squad. He knows what it takes to show up and prepare for a game day. So I'm not worried at all. I'm fine with putting him on ice for the rest of the preseason, for all I'm concerned. I just, because he's too important to this offense to waste, any sort of games just based on practice.
I'm curious about preseason management for him and Travis Kelce at this point. We've seen Travis Kelce have little issues, even Anthony Hitchens having some issues early too. Fascinating to see, what both of these guys on offense and Anthony Hitchens, what their role looks like, for the entirety of the preseason, how they, manage these guys. One thing I will say though is, and I'm not raising the panic. I'm not pressing the panic button quite yet here at all with Tyreek Hill, but I did want to bring this up because I did a little research. Well, Cole Hardman's been the beneficiary of Tyreek Hill's absence. If you think about his rookie year, 2019, there's a 4-game stretch where Tyreek Hill missed the games, missed 4 games. Mecole Hardman, 22.4% of Mecole Hardman's receiving yards in his career came in those 4 games. He had a big stretch there. Tyreek Hill, I think, at times maybe limits the opportunity exposure for Mecole Hardman at times with some of the routes in their entirety. Not, that's not an excuse for some of the other things that have maybe hamstrung his ability to kind of make progression. But when Tyreek Hill's out, Mecole Hardman gets opportunities. And I think that's something you got to kind of keep an eye on too moving forward. All right, let's just talk a little bit about some of the stuff going on here at training camp. How we, I guess there's a lot going on at training camp, and there's a lot of things to be excited about or not excited about. So we're kind of just playing a game here. We're having a conversation. We all have ideas about things.
A game.
This is serious.
Maybe we should just let Maddie present it, actually, and maybe he'll turn it into a game. We'll see. We'll let Youthful Regis come on, and just if he wants to make it a game, fine. If not, we'll just let him introduce it.
Yeah, Youthful Regis, are you free? No? Okay, sorry. I won't call again. Guys, Youthful Regis not coming on. But what the concept here is just simply, like Ken said, there's a lot of stuff that happens at training camp. You go there as a fan or you're following through on social media. There's a lot of information coming at you. You can see the same play from 2 different sources, and it's great. It's either praising one player, dunking on another. We just want to have a quick little conversation about, when you look at training camp, what matters? What information should you be, processing and then thinking, putting that in a box of, hey, this is something important. This is worth monitoring. And what can be just, yeah, I'm excited for that, but I also know it's training camp in like the first week of practices. Let's see where this goes later on. So like one of the first things to me, when I go to camp, what I'm most excited to see, what are the rotations looking like? I know early in camp, people will tell you to be, conservative when you see a guy out there with the first team or so on at the beginning of camp. But I'm going to say it, Andy Reid, he does a pretty good job of getting his guys the right reps that they need. I'm not saying guys playing in the first or second team won't change as camp goes on, but when you see someone start the very first day at training camp and then play relatively well as a starter, and they continue to do that up until pads come on, that's something worth noting. So seeing Trey Smith go in there at the right guard, starting right guard, and look better than LDT does on the second string, but the fact that he's gotten all the first string reps, stuff like that matters. The rotation of players matters when it's consistent like this. Mike Rimmer's getting every single rep at right tackle until he got hurt. Matters. Actually, that's not true. He didn't get every single rep. He got like 90% of them.
Vast majority.
There was just a little bit of rotation.
Lucas Niang would come in and play right tackle with the first team for a play or two, then switch to left tackle and play that with the second team. But that's worth noting. It's worth noting that Lucas Niang is playing both right and left tackle. Nobody else was. So you put that in the box. Hey, that's a pretty clear indicator of a swing tackle. I've now been rambling for 3 minutes telling you guys what matters to me. Craig, why don't you tell me something from training camp that matters to you, or tell me how I'm wrong?
No, you're not wrong. I do think that I think it's about consistency. And I think, we've said that kind of for several years now. When you see guys do things week after week, consistently, whether that be in the rotation, whether that be a style of play that's happening consistently, whether that be something, an impact that you're making. Nick Bolton making interceptions in back-to-back days. That's noteworthy. That is noteworthy. I mean, it doesn't mean that all of a sudden Nick Bolton is an all-pro coverage linebacker, but it does mean that some of the things that you were hoping that he's able to come in and take those steps, those are happening. When you see things like that happen consistently, that's when it matters. And so I think that we get very, very hung up in these singular plays on Twitter. You see one guy, beating an offensive lineman, and you're like, okay, so that offensive lineman is trash, and that defensive lineman is the best player that the Chiefs have along the line. That's not always the case. You want to see those things consistently, week after week, get practice after practice. We see that in like Senior Bowl and things like that as well. When you see guys grow, you see guys develop, you see guys improve and take notes and basically learn. That's what you really want to take away from all of this.
Well, and we're talking about snap counts, and we're talking about guys that are maybe getting opportunities consistently with the first and second team. And there's one guy that snuck in there with the first team today in the absence of Juan Thornhill. I think it's somebody worth talking about. What do you think, Craig?
I think it is somebody worth talking about. A guy that we have become familiar with this offseason, just like some of you have become familiar with Macadoodles, one of our very good sponsors. Devon Key has come to Kansas City. Devon Key has made an impact immediately. He was running with the ones in OTAs. Right now, he's been rotating in with the ones, obviously due to some injury concerns, but over some established veterans that have been in the rotation for a long time. But what we're seeing is an improvement on the position by this guy coming to Kansas City, just like there would be an improvement on your liquor buying if Macadoodles came to Kansas City, because of customer service, the good prices, and the selection. We need to get Macadoodles to Kansas City. info@macadoodles.com. Get a hold of Roger there if you're a franchisee. Get one up here, because I want to go to one every time I'm in Kansas City or wherever you are. Put a Macadoodles there. I'll come there. I'm not selective. Just like, we would expect Devon Key to line up anywhere all over the secondary, just like he has for the Chiefs so far.
And that's been one of the really big surprising things, because I think we saw kind of feedback coming out of the rookie camp that Devon Key was a guy that the team liked. He was getting, some positive reviews. But then if you fast forward to camp, from the get-go, he's working as a starting safety kind of with the second team. When they did kick down somebody else into the nickel, into the slot, a lot of times it was Devon Key. They were moving him all over the place, which is kind of surprising for a guy, that's as big as he is. He's a guy that is bigger than Dan Sorensen. He's bigger than Zane Anderson. These guys that Chiefs fans are often referring to as safeties that can play linebacker. You have Devon Key playing deep in the slot and in that, kind of extra linebacker role at his size. So he's been a fun guy to watch at camp. I'm not sitting here saying that he's been, amazing during his plays. He clearly looks like a rookie, but he's flashed some. He's flashed good movement ability, some good hips to turn and run and things like that. But it's the consistency. He is out there over and over again in this role, getting reps with the other players that are going to play in most of the football games. That's worth paying attention to going forward.
I think about DiCaprio Bootle too. Like, he's a guy that, he's got some consistent second team reps, but also like even in stuff like team takeoff, maybe lining up behind a guy like Tyrann Mathieu or, hanging out with Coach Spags. They're not just doing that for some third string guy that's going to be, cut. No. Like, you've got like any special attention a young player is getting, I think you have to pay attention to. It's something you've got to keep an eye on, consistent opportunities with maybe groups of players that you're not anticipating, special, time to even taking mental reps back there. Those are all things you really have to pay attention to, because that means the coaching staff is making sure they're giving special attention to somebody for a reason. Willie Gay sitting back there in some situations, with Steve Spagnuolo, they're trying to get him caught up to speed. Those are all important little things. One other thing I kind of think about too, that I pay attention to, special teams, the special team snaps. And if you're looking at, the special teams reps that they're getting, those guys that are maybe lined up on kickoff return, those guys probably have an inside track. Again, they're not, if Emmanuel Smith isn't getting opportunities there, that's probably a bad sign for Emmanuel Smith. Omari Cobb.
Are those guys getting reps in special teams? We're not talking about them enough. So are they not getting special teams reps?
We're fine talking. We're not talking about them. We've got, I think you just need to pay attention to who on special teams is out there. I think those are always positive indicators. I think that's something you really got to pay attention to for sure as well. Maddie, do you have anything else that you want you think we should pay attention to, or do you just want to jump straight to things that we shouldn't pay attention to?
I got something else big that I pay attention to, actually. I am very big on looking at how players move, specifically players that move differently than they have in years past, just moving on the field. And I don't mean football specific. I just, when they run plays out, do they look faster? Do they look more explosive? Chris Jones, for example, looks quicker, looks more explosive, and looks to understand the space playing defensive end better than he has in the past. So
Absolutely.
Just his ability to move in that way and how he looks when moving right now is something that I have seen multiple times now through clips while I was there live. That matters to me. And on the same in the same path is the player size. Do they look bigger, smaller? Like Ben Neiman, we used to joke a lot about how he looked like a punter or a special teams kind of player. Ben Neiman's put on size. I'm not saying he's going to be a smash mouth Sam linebacker, but he looks significantly thicker than he has in years past. He clearly has spent a lot of time working on his body and getting in the weight room. On the other side of that coin, Anthony Hitchens looks noticeably slimmer. When you see him in person, he looks like a much thinner player than he has in years past for the Chiefs. He's come out and talked about that he's trying to come out there and look slimmer. So things like that matter to me because that shows dedication throughout the offseason. That shows that guys have been trying to improve throughout the offseason. They're not just showing up at camp hoping to be the same player that they were or only improve during that time.
And you hear a lot of platitudes in a lot of these press conferences. Oh no, I'm feeling like the best version of myself or the most athletic version of myself and stuff like that. So when you can actually see it, like when it's visible, you go to a number of camps in a row and all of a sudden you start, you understand how these guys move. You see how they look, whether it's in pads or not. You can see that marked improvement. I agree with all the Chris Jones stuff. He looks like he's moving very, very well without losing power. I think that was one of the things that I was curious about. We've seen him utilize that power well, especially well. So I agree with all of that. You can see those guys that just move a little bit different or move a little bit differently than they have in the past. And those tend to be the guys that show up and kind of take those reps and are the impact players for those teams because they're the guys that are putting in the work. They're the guys that are doing a little bit more. Those are the ones that are going to get on the field, grab that opportunity, and hang on to it because they're going to put in that kind of work.
Something I do/don't pay attention to, if that makes sense, is, and I think it's something you kind of need to keep an eye on. There's some things that you can dismiss when there's no pads on, and there's some things that you can, you can pay attention to when there are no pads on. I don't care what happens on a run play when there's no pads on. Point blank. I saw a lot of people getting really excited about some of Clyde Edwards-Helaire's moves in between the tackles. A lot of oohs and ahs. And I'm just like, look, I like Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I'm just not getting overly excited about what I'm seeing between the tackles in, helmets, because there's really not a ton you're going to be able to tell in this situation. Everything's going to look entirely
hates
different.
Run fits. Just can't hate run fit. See how it is.
What a run fit is. You don't really know if that guy's actually making somebody miss in space. You really have no clue because they're not trying to bring him to the ground. So that was one thing.
Except for when Nick Bolton has multiple of those in a row and then he yells in frustration after one of those jukes. Yeah. And you have a pretty good idea that he felt like he was missing a potential tackle.
Well, yeah, that would be an indicator. There's one, like I look at, and I think some of the pass rush reps, I don't know. There's really not a ton to take away from the pass rush reps with pads on, but I think there is something you can take away at times, and it's similar to what Maddie's talking about with the movement skills. And like one guy I'm thinking about specifically is, I'm going to say this: I like Lucas Niang. I believe in Lucas Niang's long-term career here in Kansas City. I believe he is going to, make a lot of strides and become a good football player for this team. He does his movement skills. He does not look ready. He has struggled to get off the ball. His feet have been heavy, and he's been getting beat off the edge with a little bit of consistency, even when without pads on. And that's something that at least presents some concerns for me about the outlook of him starting as the right tackle. I think this is a big year for him and an important year for him. A guy that's really 2 years removed from playing football, from playing, real football. A guy that, had last year as kind of a, his off year due to COVID, having, not around the football team and all that stuff. I think this is a big year for him to develop. I think, getting him on both sides of the offensive line is very important. I am a little bit more concerned about his ability to jump in week one based on what I've seen from some of his movement skills. I don't want to say he's not getting off the ball well, and he's very threatened he's quickly threatened by defensive ends. Let's just say that. And he's maybe not, isn't the most prepared, but I think, some of those things with the movement skills of the offensive linemen are worth watching, but I don't think there's a ton of takeaway there. Pads versus no pads, Maddie.
Yeah, and so going back to just Lucas Niang real quick, I do think that before pads came on, I wasn't there, but when there was no pads, I do think there was a noticeable difference in the level of play from Mike Rimmers to Lucas Niang. You would expect that out of a veteran guy in
Absolutely.
his ninth camp or whatever it is for Mike Rimmers versus Lucas Niang making it to his first training camp. That said, as our fearless leader said, BJ Kissel, if a rookie is kind of looking slow to start camp, you usually don't start looking faster the more deeper into camp you get. You usually start to slow down a little bit as you continue to get more physical, get deeper in the playbook. So it is a little concerning to me that there have been so many reps where he has looked slow off the line of scrimmage, slow to adjust to, defenders across from him. But I think there's a good time to transition, because you were talking about pads, no pads, to stuff that maybe you shouldn't put too much stock into when you are going into these training camps. Like, we're starting to see all these videos. What is something that you see coming out of training camp that, you kind of put in a box of let's wait and see, Craig?
Contested catches when they're not wearing pads. I mean, let's be real here. Like, if you can't be fully physical at the catch point, if you're not able to hit, and if the quarterback knows that and can kind of lay one up, knowing full well that a dude's not going to get lit up, it's hard to really take a ton away from that. Now, I'm not saying that all contested catches are bad, when they're not wearing pads. That's fine. That is a skill. It is a good thing to have, but we tend to hang on some of these sideline boundary catches that, are just barely getting in when the DB's not hitting the dude, not really making a play on the ball. We tend to fall in love with some of that stuff. And I'm not even naming names. Like, it happens with every receiver in every team in the NFL. Like, just scroll Twitter right now for any team, and you're going to find some fringe rosterable receiver that everybody's freaking out about because he's making contested catches in training camp. So I always take those with a giant grain of salt. What do you got, Kent?
Well, I will just expand on that. It's like, how often is Patrick Mahomes in a game situation going to trust a guy not getting uncovered? So a guy that's only winning as a contested catch player, those aren't the type of players that typically get opportunities on game day. Patrick Mahomes isn't a guy that's throwing a lot of back shoulder fades outside the numbers. He's throwing, guys open. He's throwing to space. He's throwing, he's not really throwing these contested catches just to give certain guys an opportunity, especially since the guys that he has, Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill, are getting open. He's just going to throw to those guys. So I don't think, some of these guys that are able to, I'll say, like, Jody Fortson, like, he's made some really great plays, but I still don't see a guy that's able to get uncovered with great consistency. So that's something, when I look at it, I go, I don't know if that makes a lot of sense for him moving forward. We talk about, like, some things with one-on-ones, I think can be, quick pressure, I think, is important. I think that's a very positive, sign for the defensive lineman, and a negative sign for an offensive lineman. But if it's taking 6.5 seconds and the guy makes a sack, that doesn't mean anything. If he's out of his rush lane, it's the same stuff with the Senior Bowl. Like, I was watching some of the one-on-ones on Twitter today, and I'm looking at, it's like we're at the Senior Bowl again. And, like, some of them are wildly impressive. Like, some of the plays are wildly impressive. Make no mistake. Some of what Chris Jones did today, poor Orlando Brown. Turk Wharton has some quick wins, but sometimes it's just hey, I'm holding on for dear life, and or it's I am, some guy's way out of his rush lane. It took him 4 seconds to get to the quarterback. That doesn't mean anything. Like
Or
that's not
or Justin Fields throwing a pump fake 8 seconds into his drop and
I
then
will
hitting the
fight.
guy.
Oh, Craig, I'll fight you. That maybe his hitch could have been a little bit quicker, but I have zero problems with that play. That
It
was
was 8 seconds. It was
no,
8
it
seconds.
wasn't. It was not 8 seconds.
So
Go
reel us
time it.
back in. So we're going to go ahead and go back to the one-on-ones that we're dealing with, because I think that's a hot topic coming out of Chiefs camp, at the time you guys are listening to this. And specifically something that, Kent said that I got a couple things. One, Orlando Brown sounded like he had a rough day. Some of the clips I've seen haven't looked great. I'm putting that in the wait and see box for multiple reasons. The first reason is this. He came from the Baltimore Ravens. How often do you think those guys work on pass protection? I'll give you a hint. Absolutely none. Have you seen their running back quarterback, I mean? Okay, so first of all, this is his first passing camp of all time. Like, that's just what it is. 2, and I think Jeff Allen and Mike DeVito talked about this on the one-on-one podcast. Andy Heck crushes these offensive linemen at camp. So we just got pads on. These guys went, a good 30, 45 minutes of practice just today before they even get into these one-on-ones. And if you go to camp, watch the offensive linemen. They're doing team drills. They're pushing the big sled. They are working. Watch the defensive linemen. They're on their knees. They're hitting one dummy. They're resting. They're going one by one. Maybe they run a couple, loops around the hoop. Maybe they club a couple dummies. Like, they don't put in near, and I'm not saying they don't work hard. I'm just saying if you watch the offensive and defensive line, and especially for the Chiefs, and this isn't like, just my opinion. Like, you could watch them. Guys that have been in the building said this. The offensive linemen get worked by Andy Heck. So you get tired, and then you go into these one-on-ones, and you're like, oh, hey, by the way, go block Chris Jones with absolutely no help. Like, what do you think a guy that hasn't taken a lot of true pass sets is going to do trying to block Chris Jones one-on-one when he's might be tired? So, like, put that in the wait and see box. Let's see what this looks like 2 weeks from now when these offensive linemen have kind of caught up to the conditioning level. They're the reactive player as is. So when they start understanding how this, especially in Brown's case, this new defender that he's never faced in a pass protection situation ever is going to rush him. He's no longer just purely reacting. There's a lot of steps that make this a defensive heavy kind of drill. So give these guys a chance. Don't crush offensive linemen based on what you've seen from the first day in pads, where defensive linemen always come out with their hair on fire.
Especially when you've got defensive linemen that have literally been waiting all camp for this moment. This
the first time
moment.
They can hit.
This is they get to put pads on, and now they get to have one-on-ones. Like, this is it. This is what they are there for. If you're at the Senior Bowl, we keep referencing it because that's, we've been there so many years in a row. We've seen so many guys make money on one-on-ones. Defensive linemen just showing up for one-on-ones. It is slanted towards them. It is geared towards them. So yes, I did see a lot of people that were like, oh no, the Chiefs made a mistake with Orlando Brown today. Cool it. Like, just wait. Let him develop. Let Andy Reid be in his ear tonight when they're watching these back and he's showing Orlando Brown, okay, here's what you did. Here's how you fix it. Jeff Allen talked about that. Like, and it was actually Mike DeVito talked about how the second or third time that they got to get into some of these drills, all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, that move doesn't work anymore. These guys figured me out already. So wait for that. Again, it goes back to the consistency aspect of that. So just wait for that. We'll see what comes from all of that.
So one other thing this is more of a, I'm just thinking out loud. It's like, we're talking about, things to pay attention to, things not to pay attention to. When I look at, I tweeted out today, the early indications for this rookie class of Brett Veach's here in Kansas City are really positive. And I got a lot of mentions. Hey, it's August 3rd and all that stuff. This isn't I'm not calling Briscoe out because
you are.
No, he said it too. But I just saw another one. So yes, it is early in training camp, but I think one thing you got to pay attention to is you look at this entire draft class, and the entirety of it has positioned themselves for playing time almost entirely. Like, you look at all these guys, they all are already carving out a role in 1 week at training camp. Nick Bolton seems to have carved out a role in base. Creed Humphrey's your day one center. Noah Gray, appears to be very much in the mix, getting offensive snaps. Josh Kendo is very consistently, he's not running with the threes as consistently as he's running with the twos. Like, I think this is a guy that's getting opportunities. I actually think I might have even seen him with the ones. When we talk about, we know Trey Smith, we know all about Trey Smith, and he's he might be a day one starter there as well. Cornell Powell, he's probably as of right now, I think he's the guy that maybe has the least amount of buzz or the least amount of, of optimism I have right now, being the last pick of the team. This draft looks really strong for Brett Veach based on, where these guys' snaps are occurring. It's week 1 and they've already passed some dudes that have been in the system for, certain amounts of time. That's really positive for all these guys moving forward, in my opinion.
One other just actual thing to me before we'd go live to Camp TikTok, I think this is something that's got to come up. Darius Harris has been playing a lot of reps with Anthony Hitchens and Ben Niemann not playing. And now normally I wouldn't make a big deal about this, but I will say the day that Ben Niemann left practice, they gave Nick Bolton and Willie Gay a chance to call the plays. They had them out there with the green dot. Andy Reid talked about how they kind of shared that duty. The very next practice, that was no longer the case. I'm not saying they're not helping call some plays. I'm not saying they're not giving them the opportunity to, but the very next practice, Darius Harris was the mic in the base. Darius Harris is on the field in the nickel. He's your dime linebacker. I think that right there tells you exactly what this team thinks about having a linebacker that knows the system versus having the most athletically talented linebacker on the field. This goes into the box of something I do think that does kind of matter.
Yeah.
This is a guy, this follows a pattern of consistency over multiple years now. I just wanted to give Darius Harris a little shout out because he was a guy that I do think deserved getting talked about in this segment.
Keep Darius. Cut Ben.
Abrupt changes are something that you need to pay attention to for sure in something like that. And now we're going to make an abrupt change and say goodbye to Craig and hello to Camp TikTok.
You want to threaten me with a week? Get out of here.
It is time to bring in our correspondent who has been at basically every training camp practice to this point. Tucker Franklin, you look in prime. You look in the best shape of your life, buddy.
Wow, that is very kind of you to say. I guess round is a shape, so that does work out. So thank you for that. I had to go out to the team store and get this hat. Maddie Lane now and I have matching hats because I didn't want to keep getting my face sunburnt because I'm standing out there in the sun. But it's great to be on the show. I hate that I had to kick Craig off, but thanks for having me, guys.
Of course, you have your Air Force Ones on the ground in St. Joe's. We had to get you on here. We have, Camp TikTok is live. And so really, we just want to grill you on questions about your time at camp, what you're seeing, what you're not. And I hope you're okay with that because, like I said, you are our guy. You are our connection to Chiefs camp right now. Kent, won't drive out there every single day for some reason.
Absolutely
It's
not.
almost like he's got a job or family or something going on. I don't know. I lived slightly too far away to make the drive. But you're the guy.
Yeah, I guess that's what it comes down to, kind of maybe a seniority thing. Maybe I just got stuck with I drew the short straw and had to drive up every day. But hey, listen, I don't really live that far away. So it's okay.
Tucker, this is hazing, except for the hazing is no one has asked you to do this at all, and you're just doing it on your own volition. You're hazing yourself.
Right. Yeah, BJ's even said hey, I'm not paying you for this, right? And I'm like, yeah, I do. I do know that.
I appreciate your hard work.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. It's been fun. It's free. So why not go?
Yeah, exactly. So our first question, today at camp, Charvarius Ward didn't practice. Juan Thornhill didn't practice. So what were you seeing from kind of the defensive back room with the first team? Kind of how was that rotation looking? And did anybody in particular catch your eye while you were out there?
So it was kind of a Mod Podge group, I guess you could say, kind of all put together because I didn't even know Charvarius Ward had eye surgery in the offseason. Guess he got poked in the eye during practice, that flared up, everything like that. But he was not out there. And then you have Juan Thornhill nursing a groin. So then you had Devon Key. You had Rashad Fenton as well, getting a lot of reps on the outside, which when we see Rashad Fenton, we usually think about him on the inside. And personally, I like Rashad Fitton on the inside. I know that's some people don't like him on the inside, but he's just, I guess, my taste when it comes to an inside cornerback. But we get to see a whole lot of different guys come out there. And Devon Key, you guys already mentioned on the podcast, did really well. I mean, he looks the part as a one and this safety, and he was running as safety. He was running in the slot as well. So he's got the versatility that Spagnuolo likes, and I think that that's going to be really beneficial for him coming into cut time.
All right, Tucker, I got a very important question kind of stemming from the cornerback situation.
Yeah.
Who are you picking as this team's cornerback 3? Is it Mike Hughes or is it DeAndre Baker?
I think it's Mike Hughes. I haven't been too impressed with DeAndre Baker. Granted, he did just snap his strongest bone of his body 6 months ago. So I mean, maybe that might be slowing him down a little bit. I think that context needs to be presented when you talk about this conversation. Mike Hughes has looked well. I think that I'm in the same boat with you guys as thinking about it. We thought as Mike Hughes as a slot cornerback, but he's been playing a lot on the outside, and I thought that was always interesting. But he seems to be holding his own and has just seemed to have those ball skills to play on the outside as well. So I think I'll go with Mike Hughes in that scenario.
That's good to hear. I'm glad that Mike Hughes is it, because Mike Hughes was a guy that I think I had more hope for coming out of college. Not the biggest DeAndre Baker fan, but I really liked Mike Hughes. I'm intrigued by his fit on the outside. I do think that's a strange tactic the Chiefs are trying, but at least, they are trying to get their best guys out there. So I applaud them for that. I got another one for you. You told us, because you were there, that Patrick Mahomes 2 days ago, the day that, he notoriously threw 3 interceptions, that outside the 3 interceptions, which seemed to be a lot of coverage bust, you thought he looked really sharp. You thought that he had one of kind of the better days that you had seen while you were there. Just what was going on with him? Was he throwing bombs all over the place? Was the timing just looking good? Just why did he look like he was having his best practice so far?
Yeah, it was a timing thing. I think when we were there a couple of days, I think you guys would both admit too that Patrick Mahomes maybe didn't look the sharpest he'd ever looked. I don't think that that's bad for me to say. I think there was just some timing miscues and everything, but he really fixed it out during the team sessions. Now, I like to separate out 7-on-7 and team sessions, because I think I told you guys before the podcast, 7-on-7 is kind of like a law of large numbers thing. Like you're bound to throw an interception when you're throwing that many passes, just in that scenario. And I think that when he was really firing on all cylinders, it's been in those team sessions. It's been with the full team around him, which is what you really want him to be firing on all cylinders, is when the full team is around. And there's a clip going around that I took of him being super stoked about Demarcus Robinson being in the right place when he wanted to throw the ball. And you're seeing clips like that of him just throwing fadeaway passes to Tyreek Hill off of his back foot. He threw a really good pass on a Tuesday off of his back foot, rolling to his right, fading away to Marcus Kemp for a touchdown that ended their little team situational period as in a touchdown. So it was very cool to see him just be in this rhythm in these team periods. But most of his picks, I think all of them have come on the 7-and-7 period, which I'm not too worried about.
I'm never worried about Patrick Mahomes doing anything. Tucker, I do have a question for you. So I was out there this weekend with you. It was wonderful. It was probably one of the best moments of my life, getting to see you in person, if I'm being honest. But I kind of watching practice, I got this vibe of, this team is just so well established. This program is so well established. It doesn't seem like there's too many storylines to pay too much attention to. Everything is so settled with this organization. Do you get that same vibe, or, maybe the last couple of days that you've been out here, are you feeling something saying, maybe there's some more storylines here. Maybe there's some more intrigue than what we're used to, and what, this super well-established juggernaut of an organization?
I just think they're really locked in, and I think you can tell that by how the practices run. Andy Heck is on the offensive linemen's butt all the time, wanting sense of urgency, jogging in between reps, having 2 guys in the hole ready to step in. He wants as many reps as they can in these little 10-minute individual periods before they have, they go together for team takeoff, and they run these plays on air, and they only have 10 minutes of individuals, and he wants as many reps as he can. And they're getting those reps. And the same thing with the other individuals. They just seem really locked in and focused. And I saw reports coming out of Giants camp today. I even made a tweet about this on Twitter, that they had the all-out brawl. Daniel Jones got pinned underneath, and Joe Judge had to stop it. He was running everybody. I think he was running coaches the other day too. I don't know if you saw it. I think that was the right camp. He just said coaches run with them.
No wonder they're fighting out there.
Yeah. weird. And I quote tweeted it and said, couldn't be an Andy Reid camp. Because if you're at an Andy Reid camp, everything's tight, it's buttoned up, it's under control. And I think that that's really evident in these past few days that I've gotten. It's a process, and they know what they need to do. And yeah, Eric Bieniemy's gotten upset. Yeah, Andy Heck's gotten upset. But these are the growing periods, the learning times, and you're going to have growing pains like that. But I think that all these guys are just really locked in.
All right, Tuck, you've been there multiple days now. Would you prefer the blasting heat that we got on Friday's camp, where we left soaked and drenched, or the rain that we got for the entire camp on Saturday, where we were also drenched, but it was nice and cool? Which one was preferred for Camp TikTok?
That's a good question. I'm a sweater. That might shock you, but I sweat a lot.
Same, bud. This is why we're one and the same.
Right. So even if it's kind of cool outside, I'm probably still sweating. So I kind of liked the rain a little bit better because at one point you just like, okay, is it sweat or is it rain? It doesn't matter. So at that point, and it cooled down after it rained. So that was kind of nice. I don't want to lump you guys in with me. I didn't check the weather. I just showed up in like a t-shirt. Yeah, I showed up in t-shirt and shorts. Was like, this will be fine. I'll be good. And then we were with Chief Bearcat on Twitter, and not on Twitter. We were in person, but he's Chief Bearcat on Twitter. Just thought I should clarify that. But
somebody recognized him.
It's true.
Without we were all together, and someone just said, "Are you Chief Bearcat?" Like someone maybe was able to piece it together, maybe because we said we were going to be. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, now, while we're clarifying things, Tucker, is it true that you used to be a weatherman?
No, that's not.
Oh, I thought you used to deliver the weather, and that's close enough to a weatherman.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. No, I forgot about that, actually. No, I did. In high school, I worked for the radio station 92.3 KTTN in Trenton, Missouri. And I would read the National Weather Service weather report. I wouldn't actually, decide what the weather was going to be. I would just read off of the website. But so that's what he said, am I a weatherman? I was like, no, I've never predicted the weather, but I have read the weather to several people over the air. Yes.
Decides what the weather is gonna be. Does he think Gary Lezak controls what happens in Kansas City?
He watched Bruce Almighty the other day. That's a Jim Carrey movie from years back.
Yeah, you were probably. I don't know if you were born when that came out. It was 2004. Tucker, another very important question, because you are hashtag grinding, hashtag putting in the work. You are going out to a bunch of training camp practices on your own volition. You're getting a lot of clips. You're getting a lot of tweets off. I need to know, in the last week, how many Twitter followers have you gained? How much has that sweet, sweet Twitter clout helped?
Oh boy, I wish I knew how much I started with, but I'm up to. No, I don't. I'll look at live count right now. Live count. I'll open my Twitter. We will see what my Twitter following count is. I'm at 3,235, and I was below 2,000 before we started.
And if you're not following Tucker right now,
I'm at below 3,000, not below 2.
No,
yeah, there's Tucker at Tucker D. Franklin.
Yes, make sure you get on top of that. I'll retweet it right now. So is Kent. It's already been done when you guys have heard this, but you can go back and find it. Make sure you follow Tucker if you want camp updates. I'm not going to sign up Tucker if you're going to camp for every single day. I don't have that power. That's up to BJ. But I will say, on his own choice, he's gone out there numerous times now, and we're enjoying it. We're all getting great camp updates from Tucker. So with that, I have to ask, who has had your favorite performance in a single session at the Chiefs practices that you've been to, and why is it Tommy Townsend?
Oh, yes, Tommy Townsend. The dude has a leg that has been blessed by God himself. You hear him kick punts, kick balls, and it's a booming sound. I retweeted this video from the Coles kicking camp. Actually, shout out Simon Matthiasen, who works for Coles kicking camp, was the punter and kicker at Northwest Missouri State when I was there my freshman year. And Parker Sampson, who is the punter at Western Michigan now, who was at Northwest Missouri State, sent it to me. I get a lot of punters. I know a lot of punters. And he sent it to me, and it's a 6.0 hang time punt. And if you listen to that video, it sounds like a bomb is going off when he kicks the ball, and it looks fake. It does not look real because of how high he kicks the ball and how far he kicks the ball. It's a 50-yard punt, and it went 6 seconds in the air, if that's a measurement. I don't know. But Tommy Townsend has been looking good, does the different kicks, the end over end, the spiral obviously goes a little bit further. End over end is more, we want to pin it back deep. But they've looked good. Tommy Townsend has looked good. Another guy, when you talk about special teams, I got to bring up Marcus Kemp, because Marcus Kemp's been flying all over the field when it comes to actually playing on the special teams and also being on special teams scout team. He was really impressive in scout punt today. Coaches were very happy with his scout punt coverage skills. Kind of a gunner, I think is what he was playing. So he was kind of getting down there. So, yeah, I've really enjoyed Tommy Townsend. The hair is great. The shorts are short. And you can't beat it.
Tucker, how many Twitter followers did you say you had?
When we just started?
Yeah, when you said it, was it 32, 35?
Holy cow, yeah.
And now you are up to 3251 because we tweeted something out. So, hey, we are on, like, this is already aged terribly. We got to start the whole show from scratch.
Well, yep.
No, we're not going to do that. We're going to end it now. That is it for the KC Laboratory. Thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with us today, getting our reaction from training camp. Make sure you follow Tucker D. Franklin on Twitter, and we will catch you later. Thanks.